perfect is key to narrating stories in the past and to mastering the past conditional. When do we use the past perfect? We use the past perfect when we want to refer to actions that happened in the past before another action that also took place in the past. This last action usually goes in simple past tense. Normally, the past perfect is used in stories or when narrating a sequence of events that happened and ended in the past. For example, they had already solved past perfect, action that happened before. The problem when the technician arrived, simple past tense. Had you asked about them before? I had seen the film. That's why I wasn't interested in going to the cinema. The past perfect in conditional sentences. The past perfect can appear in conditional sentences. In this case, it is always preceded by if or in case, provided that, and when. And it refers to an action that could have taken place in the past but didn't. Therefore, it is called the impossible condition, also past or third conditional. Examples. If you had come, si tú hubieses venido. If they had done it, si ellos lo hubieran hecho. If we had bought it, si nosotros lo hubiéramos comprado. We will review this structure more closely in Lesson 17 as part of the conditional sentences. Let's review the structure of the past perfect. Affirmative, subject plus had plus past participle of the main verb plus object. Example, I had studied at the library the night before. Negative, subject plus had plus not plus past participle of the main verb plus object. Example, they hadn't done anything when he got home. Question, had plus subject plus past participle of the main verb plus object, question mark. Had you cleaned the kitchen yesterday? Negative question, had plus not plus subject plus past participle of the main verb plus object plus question mark. Example, hadn't you invited her to the party? Answers, yes plus subject plus had. No plus subject plus had plus not. Example, yes I had, no I had not. So we usually translate this tense as había plus past participle of the main verb. For example, yo ya había cenado cuando ellos me llamaron. I had already had dinner when they called me. However, as part of the past conditional, it is usually translated as hubiera o hubiese. For example, if I had known, si yo hubiera o hubiese sabido. Mastering the past participles. As with the past continuous, the past perfect is a relatively simple tense to learn and reproduce, so we will concentrate on learning sentences using the past perfect, paying special attention to the past participles of the verbs. I have listed sentences in Lesson 14 that can be found in the first 10 chapters of your audiobook. Please listen to them and repeat them aloud. She had forgotten what he did. She had forgotten what he did. She told me that she had met a marvelous young man called Dorian Gray. She told me that she had met a marvelous young man called Dorian Gray. How had a stranger discovered his own self? How had a stranger discovered his own self? Then he thought about what Lord Henry had said. Then he thought about what Lord Henry had said. What had happened? What had happened? The servant told him that lunch had already started. The servant told him that lunch had already started. I thought you had promised Basil that. I thought you had promised Basil that. Dorian was in the small library of Lord Henry's house, who still hadn't arrived home. Dorian was in the small library of Lord Henry's house, who still hadn't arrived home. If I hadn't done it, if I hadn't done it, she was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen in my life. She was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen in my life. He started to think about what had happened with Dorian. He started to think about what had happened with Dorian. One of the most beautiful creatures he had ever seen in his life. One of the most beautiful creatures he had ever seen in his life. It seemed that the face had changed. It seemed that the face had changed. Suddenly, he remembered what he had said in Basil Hallward's studio. Suddenly, he remembered what he had said in Basil Hallward's studio. He had wished that he could remain young. He had wished that he could remain young. Had his wish come true? Had his wish come true? Had he been cruel? Had he been cruel? He had fallen in love with her. He had fallen in love with her. She had disappointed him. She had disappointed him. Had the portrait really changed? Had the portrait really changed? The cruelty around the mouth had appeared at the same moment that she died. The cruelty around the mouth had appeared at the same moment that she died. He felt that his life choice had already been made. He felt that his life choice had already been made. Then Dorian Gray remembered that Lord Henry had told him to ask him why he didn't want to exhibit the picture. Then Dorian Gray remembered that Lord Henry had told him to ask him why he didn't want to exhibit the picture. Because he had started to grow old. Because he had started to grow old. Where he had locked away the portrait. Where he had locked away the portrait. He would place himself in the front of the painting that Basil Hallward had painted. He would place himself in the front of the painting that Basil Hallward had painted. To sum up, the past perfect is usually used to speak about an action that happened in the past before another action that also happened in the past. Example, I had already read the newspaper, action that happened before, when he called me. This action. Please note that the translation into Spanish is había. The past perfect is also used in the third conditional, also called the past or impossible conditional. In this case, it is always preceded by if. Example: if I had known, I would have called you. Si lo hubiera sabido, te habría llamado. Notice that the translation in this case is hubiera, hubiese. We'll talk about this type of conditional in lesson 17. As the past perfect is a relatively easy tense to learn and reproduce, use it to practice the past participles. Homework. Continue looking for the past perfect from chapters 11 to 19 of your audiobook. Try to ask and answer questions aloud using the sentences that you find in past perfect. For example, she had disappointed him. Had she disappointed him? Yes, she had. No, she hadn't. Translate the sentences that can be found in the course material lesson 14. Once you have corrected any mistakes, say the sentences aloud. If you have doubts on how to pronounce these sentences, please use software such as Google Translator or any similar software.